Debut of Tim and Eric's Pop Culture Sanctuary podcast. Tim and Eric
Woo!
Potts. We're going to sit here. We're going to talk about everything pop culture. We're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about TV.
All in one show?
We're going to talk about books. We're going to talk about things that podcasts never talk about. Pop
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Nobody ever talks about pop culture.
No, nobody's ever touched on this subject. I hear these podcast things are a new thing. I hear they're
Well, you know what? We have a unique angle. Well, not a unique angle, but we do have at least you made it. You did some very good topics. So I think we're going to be touching on things that not a lot of people are touching on. I think that even today, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people have done what we're going to do today.
Perhaps not. Yeah, and I thought of some other ones during the week, but strictly for music. But I didn't think of anything for the other topics that we're going to talk about. But yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, and it's just going to be a fun show. It's going to be just like fun debating. There's no serious shit here. We're just going to.
Oh, I'm getting serious. We're getting political, and I'm going to knock you out.
We're going to have guests someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
When more than two people know about the show.
Nobody knows about it yet, except for me, you. That's it.
Nobody.
All right.
There's still a chance to, burn this and forget we ever came up with the idea.
Yeah, exactly. So, what we decided to do, since it's our debut show, is we decided to do our top 5, and maybe a couple more stuck in there, debut albums. When an artist came out with their first album or CD or whatever it is, they, what are the best top 5? Now, this isn't official. This isn't anybody. This is our opinions.
Yes.
So you're going to have your top 5. I'll have my top 5, maybe a couple honorable mentions, but it's just what we think.
Right. And you made a great point last week because I was going on I don't know, for some reason I was going on albums that made a difference or whatever. And then you said that you went on your opinion. So I thought, yeah, let's just do that. Go on opinion. I don't want to go on some,
Oh, yeah, because there's plenty of albums out there that made a difference. But when we talk about debut albums, it's subjective.
Right.
There are albums out there that are on my list that were maybe when you look at it now, you go, that's not such. But at the time, it was pretty impressive. The number of hits that came off the album and stuff.
Believe it or not, I did a little research for the show already. So I've had this book for years. You see this?
Yes, Rock and Roll, Encyclopedia of Rock and Roll.
This is a great book. This is fantastic, and it tells you the years, all the albums were released, and how much they sold and everything. I bought that when I was on excuse me, Big Daddy Graham's podcast.
Right.
Do you know?
Oh, so you're a podcast slut then?
Well, I've been on podcasts. Yes, I've heard of them.
Slut, you're easy.
Do you know Spins Nightly?
I don't know. No.
Yeah. Okay. I worked with him a few times. Him and Big Daddy Graham had a podcast years ago about music and stuff, and those guys blew me away with their knowledge. I thought I know a lot. Those guys, they knew so much more than I did. So I went out, I started getting this. I was like, I gotta brush up on if I ask back or something like that, because they were coming up with facts that I did. I was like, whoa,
I know nothing about music, so this is all going to be foreign to me.
Right, but a lot of it's just opinion anyway. So
yeah,
exactly. I just did some on my picks. I did a little research, just some little facts, whatever.
So are we going to count down from 5 to 1? Is that how we're going to do it?
Yeah, let's do it that way.
All right. And before we get to 1, you're going to make a couple honorable mentions. Is that what you're going to do? All right. Yeah. I know we kind of talked about this last week, and some of our albums, they overlap, and that's okay. Because if you say it, I'll say, yeah, I agree with that totally, and because it's okay. I have some notes here too, so that's what I'm.
But you came up with one last week that blew me away, and I didn't even think about that.
The 1984 female.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So you want to lead off?
Okay, and I think you got this. Number 5, I got the Cars.
Absolutely. I actually probably have it a little bit higher than number 5 on my list, but it is definitely top 5 all time. It's what a great album.
Incredible album, incredible band. The album came out in 1978. 1978 was an incredible year for music.
It was. The funny thing that you're mentioning that, because I just on my my phone, my iPod, it's for you. It says just for you. There's that section. I clicked on it. It was hits of 1978. So I listened to them, and it just said, "Oh my God."
Incredible year.
Oh my God, the music that came out was unbelievable.
I got 2 albums just from that year alone. But yeah, Dire Straits. There was a lot. If you go down the list, there's a lot of and debut albums, like
Right.
first albums from these bands. You know. So I got the Cars.
Well, don't go through the whole list. I mean, we'll talk about it. You know what's so good about that album is that everything flowed cohesively into the next song.
Right.
Although there's that one song, it's all mixed up, which kind of gets lost in it because that's really a great song. All mixed up. It's the last song on the second side.
Could have been a throwaway, but
but it's so good.
Right.
When you listen to it, it's really a great song. But I think the most iconic song, probably, I mean, they're all hits, but the one that really stands out, I think, for a lot of people is Moving in Stereo because of Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, and the greatest nude scene on the planet. That was when I was a kid. I was like 12 years old when that came out, and my God, I still think about that.
What a gorgeous chick she was, man.
I'll be in the car and I hear that swirling sound, from the beginning of the song, and it'll instantly take me back to that scene. It's absolutely incredible.
But when you agree, I mean, there's because My Best Friend's Girlfriends, Good Times Roll, all those songs. But that song, I think for most people who don't really even know the Cars, that song, like, oh, that's from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah. I think they would definitely associate that song with them. What a great band! They sounded so original, I liked them back then too, more so than when in the '80s, only because they were more of a rock band back then. Like in the '80s,
I love their debut album. I love it, but I think their better album is Candio. I think that's such a good album.
Right.
But it's more polished. Candio is definitely more produced, but I just think that every song on Candio just pops for me. I love that album. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just incredible band. Incredible band. Did you ever get to see them live?
No. No, and that if somebody said to me, "What band would you go back to and see live in their prime?" and that's one of the bands that I would have to go back to and see.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely, without a doubt, I'd have to go back. That and there's a band that not a lot of people know called XTC that I would have to go see at their prime, at the peak of their success, even though it's moderate success.
Yeah, the Cars were one of those bands that I missed. Really because my brother, who's your age, like I said, and that's you guys have that little bit benefit of being a little bit older, so you guys kind of probably could have seen them. I was a little younger, so I
Yeah.
But my brother.
How old do you think I am? 75?
I know how old you are.
I know.
So my brother would go around. There was this kid around the block from us. And my brother would go over with his, the Maxell tapes, and he would dub records off of our buddy John. And you don't know how many records, how many tapes of those. I found out later when I got the CD that there was like one track missing because the tape ran out, and I didn't know there was like an extra track. There's a Billy Joel record, Glass Houses. I didn't know there was one more song on that album until years later when I got the CD, and I was like, "What is this?"
That's funny. But, I remember making mixtapes all the time. I remember sitting in front of the radio, because I had the cassette, and then waiting for a song to come on and trying to get it without hearing the DJ talk over it or anything. I remember doing that all the time.
That was. Then your mom would come in and interrupt her or say something. You're like, "Shut up!"
Kids don't know how the struggle was real bad. Well, you know what? I didn't have that problem because I was lucky enough to have a stereo that had the cassette built in, so I didn't have to, have the microphone up to the thing on a Panasonic and record it.
Yeah, you know what I was just thinking about the other day when I was playing guitar. My dad had this great stereo system from the '70s, and it was one of those stereo systems that you could pan, lead guitar or rhythm. Oh. And I would learn a lot of Van Halen stuff by because I couldn't do the leads. I wasn't good enough to do it, but I would learn the rhythm by panning over and just listen to the rhythm, and the lead would go away. And there was a couple of Prince
pretty cool.
Stuff. Yeah, it was really cool. They don't have that now. Like if you buy a stereo, I don't think you can pan now.
Can you even get a stereo now? I mean, do they really? I mean, I guess you could get. I mean, you can still get turntables. I know that, but I mean, they're not making stereo, are they?
I don't know.
Make stereo equipment anymore? I don't even know. I have stereo equipment in my basement that's probably ruined from the moisture down in the basement.
Yeah.
But I used to spend when I was in the Army, I would spend my entire paycheck because they fed me. Right. I would spend my entire paycheck on stereo equipment. I mean, I paid $1,000 for my first CD player.
Wow.
$1,000.
Wow.
And it was a single beam pickup Panasonic.
I remember in the 80s when Walkmans came out, they were the big thing. They were really expensive. And I think my sister wanted one for Christmas, and my family was like, well, we can't afford it,
I remember, but and you know what's cool about those is because really that's the first time I had a really experience with the headphones and how you could really hear the music. Like
Yeah.
you could really hear the music. You could hear, if you wanted to pay attention to the bass line, you could really hear the bass line. If you wanted to pay attention to the rhythm guitar, you could really hear it, as opposed to when it's just playing, over the crappy speakers we had back then.
Well, especially when CDs came out, and all of a sudden the crackling was gone, and it was crystal clear. I mean,
now, are you a CD guy or an album guy?
I'm all of it, really. To be honest with you, I love albums, but I love CDs too. It doesn't bother me.
I don't miss the crackling or the pops, and I know there's a lot of people who go, "Well, how dare you?" I don't miss it. I like the clean, crisp sound. I like it.
CDs blew me away when I was, when they started coming out in the 80s. I was just like, I remember they came in the long boxes. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Came in
Yep.
Long boxes. Yeah.
What a waste of paper.
That's why they stopped, because it was like it was a waste.
My very first CD was Thin Lizzy's Greatest Hits.
Oh wow.
That was the only CD they had that, and I take that back. It was Thin Lizzy and Steve Miller Band's Greatest Hits. I bought those two because it was the only two they had. I was over in Germany at the time, in the PX on the base I was at. So
mm-hmm. Didn't you see some concerts over there?
Who's that?
Didn't you see some concerts over there?
Oh yeah, I went to the Monsters of Rock concert in Karlsruhe in 1984. It was AC/DC. It was Van Halen with David Lee Roth.
Didn't they headline? I think they headlined that, the Monsters.
I knew it flip-flop. It was AC/DC headlining the show I was on.
Okay.
So it was AC/DC, or Van Halen, then AC/DC. But Ozzy Osbourne was on that show. Motley Crue was on that show.
Wow.
Dio, Ronnie James Dio, but Dio, the band Dio, was on that show.
Now see, again, there you go. Like, there's a show that I would have loved to have seen that you got to see, being in the Army and being over there.
Dude, I was in one of those huge soccer stadiums. I was so far away from the stage, man. They looked about this big. I mean, if you can see it, like that big. They were so we could hear, the sound was great, but we were so far away.
It's funny. I saw a Facebook meme one time, and it had a picture of like a record player and a calculator and like all this electronic shit. And then it said, all that's in your phone now.
Oh yeah. It's unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy?
There's more information on my Apple Watch, like hundreds of times more information on my Apple Watch than what went to the moon.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
That's crazy.
In your car, there's more stuff that went than what went to the moon.
My best friend, his brother was in the Navy. He served on the USS Coral Sea, and when he came home, he bought a beautiful stereo system, and he didn't want us touching it. And we had a party one time, and it was like stacked up. You know how, like, remember it was in a case, but it was like kind of stacked up.
I never had mine in a case. I just stacked mine up. So
yeah, his was in a case, and I don't know, somebody bumped it, and they all just kind of collapsed on each other. And we spent the rest of the party like just trying to fix it because his brother was older, and we were crapping ourselves. But it was like state of the art, beautiful stereo. And being a musician, we love to listen to it, but he would get pissed.
I think that I said Panasonic before. It's Technics. Remember, Technics was a big stereo manufacturer back then. So it was I had everything Technics, amplifier, Technics, CD player. I had the vertical record player. It didn't lay flat. It stood up like that. You put your album in.
Really?
Yeah. I had that. I had.
I think I ever saw that.
I had the 2-deck tape player. I should take pictures of it. It's all downstairs. I wonder if it works. I should plug it in. Somebody might buy that.
Yeah, you could put it on eBay or something like that. I don't remember the first CD I bought. I remember the first tape I bought. First cassette tape I bought with my own money. I was 12, and I bought it. I was at grade school, and they had this catalog. These little, like, almost like, remember the 99-cent catalog? What was that?
I know what you're talking about.
Like Clearinghouse or something like that, or like.
Oh man, Columbia House.
Columbia House, yeah. It wasn't that, but it was something like that.
All
so
right.
I went away and I got the Stray Cats Built for Speed, which had just come out, and Rock This Town was a big hit.
Oh,
so with my own money, I sent away. It took like 6 weeks to come in the mail, this cassette tape, and that was the first tape I got. And I like wore it out. I just kept playing it and wore it out. That's the first
Yeah.
tape. CD, I don't know. I have no idea what my first CD was. I don't know.
I just remember mine because CDs were brand new, and that's all that was on. That was all that was on the PX. I mean, I have so many. I have probably 300 CDs downstairs that I don't listen to anymore. Everything's digitized now. I have
have a lot.
all. I have them all on digital. So
Me too. I have a lot too. And same thing. Amazon Music. I have them all on my phone.
All right, here's my number 5 album. We'll go that way. We'll go back and forth.
Okay.
My number 5 debut album is Pearl Jam 10.
Okay. Great record.
I think that and we touched on this briefly last week, how Nirvana really kind of set the trend for grunge.
Right.
But I think, when you talk about a debut album, a band coming out with an album that just has so many good songs on it, it's the Pearl Jam, their debut album. I mean, I got to look, but Even Flow, what a great song.
Even Flow, Jeremy, Alive.
Alive. Ooh,
Yeah.
love that song.
What's the
Why
one?
Go? Why Go?
Why Go? But the one I love,
Black.
Yeah. I wanted to say Painted Black, and I knew it wasn't that, but Black. I love that song.
Yeah, the first 5, I guess the first 5 songs on the album are just phenomenal. Now, that's not to say that I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan, because I'm not. I'm really not. But I remember hearing that and buying it and listening to it and going, wow, this is really good. And then when we talked about debut albums, I started looking. I didn't want to be specific to the 70s or the 80s, which is really my forte. The late 70s through the 80s, maybe even into the early 90s is really my heyday for music. But so I didn't want to lock myself into like the 70s and 80s. So I really wanted to look. And I think Pearl Jam, I have another 90s album on here too, or it might be an honorable mention, but I think Pearl Jam's, their first album was the best of their albums. Now, that a lot of people might argue that. A lot of people might say that, they have better albums out. There's better songs out.
Yeah.
I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better all around album for a band, for them.
I would agree. Their second album was good too. But I agree with you. I think the first album was a landmark record. I have to look it up. I wonder if it was more successful, meaning like not even like chart wise, maybe, or even money wise, than Nevermind, Nirvana. And the reason I say that is because they had more hits off that record. I think like Nirvana only had Smells Like Teen Spirit, but like you said, Even Flow, Alive, Jeremy, they were all like top 40 hits.
I would say that probably Nirvana outsold it though, because that song was monster.
It was. It was one song though. But yeah, you're right.
I'd be curious. We have to look it up. Maybe next show we'll have the answer to it, because as a matter of fact, we could post production it and put it in the graphics in here. But I would say, my guess, while I agree with you that there was more hits off of Pearl Jam, my guess would be Nevermind is probably the bigger seller.
Nevermind was the bigger
because you know what, even it's selling more now because he died. People are still into it. They're listening to it.
Right.
So overall, I think it probably sold more, but I don't think it's a better album. I think Nirvana is way overrated. I'm one of those people that thinks Nirvana is way overrated.
As do I.
Okay, good. I listen. I'm looking at them like, what are you talking about? I mean, yeah, they're okay, but my God, far over.
Here's the thing. I think Nirvana was great at the time. I think they were helped by a certain kind of, and I hate to say this word, but like a certain martyrdom to music by Cobain killing himself. I think that made him almost like a Morrison kind of. All of a sudden now he's a legend. Yeah, right. So I think that helped the success. But being a guitar player, like it drives me nuts when he's even in a top like 50. He was a horrible guitar player. He was a good rhythm player, but he wasn't great. And when he's on countdowns, that drives me crazy.
Who would think that the best musician out of that whole band was the drummer?
The drummer.
Yeah. I mean, his music is phenomenal. I love the Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters are great, and he did that like on his own, and he was like so shy to show any. And Cobain didn't want him to write anything. Like he would bring stuff to Cobain, and Cobain would be like, "Nah, it's." And now,
I have no the word I'm looking. I wanted to say fond memories, but I don't because I don't even know. But I don't really give a rat's ass about Kurt Cobain, and that's horrible to say. I'm sorry he's dead, but
Yeah.
I'm never a fan. Think they're way overrated. Think that his songwriting prowess, as they want to call it, is way overrated. I listen to the music, I listen to what he's saying, and I don't think it's all that great.
Yeah, I mean, and what they weren't like my top favorite, like especially in that grunge period. I liked Pearl Jam and Soundgarden better.
Oh, I love Soundgarden. Yeah,
Yeah, Soundgarden was great, and also Alice in Chains was great. I
Stone
saw a
Temple
documentary-
Pilots.
What's that?
Stone Temple Pilots.
Stone Temple Pilots were great. I saw a documentary on Kurt Cobain, and it made me like not like him way more.
Yeah, I wouldn't even watch a documentary about him, to be honest with you, but I'm sure I'd feel the same way if I saw it. I just,
Yeah, he wasn't like that nice of a person. He was
there's nothing about the guy that's special to me.
right. Now we might catch shit for this one when
Oh,
people.
we're gonna catch shit. They're gonna be, how dare you? We're gonna make podcast duo calls Kurt Cobain suck ass.
Right. Oh my God. Our first episode will be in national news.
It's gonna be bad. All right, what's your number 4?
I picked a weird one here. I picked the Doors, 1967. I always liked the band. I always thought they had a signature sound. You know, when you hear the Doors, just especially because that Ray Manzarek keyboard is just so haunting. And I just love that album. I just think that's
What songs are off the debut album?
Light My Fire, 20th Century Fox. I like that one. I had them written down here. I don't know where they're at. There's a couple like minor hits that they had. Light My Fire was their biggest hit though, written by their guitar player.
It was their biggest hit ever.
I think it was their biggest hit. Yeah, Light My Fire.
Wow. I like of course I love LA Woman, but I'm not a big Doors fan. I never was, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I think that and that's not because of drug culture or anything like that. I just think that they I don't know. I just never really got into them. I mean, I get the whole, but it's the same thing with Jim Morrison as with Kurt Cobain. In my opinion, Jim Morrison is the '60s version of Kurt Cobain.
Right. When I was a kid in the late '70s, right? So my brother had the album or the tape cassette of the Doors' Greatest Hits, and on the cover was a really kind of weird photo of Jim Morrison. And at that time, like 77, 78, there was still a big rumor that he was alive. So I would look at his picture and it kind of freaked me out. I don't know why. He scared me. I was like 7 years old or whatever, and he kind of freaked me out. And then my brother would play what's the song? Waiting for the Sun, I think. Not of This Earth. You ever hear that?
I probably heard it when I was 15 and getting high. I probably haven't heard it since then.
It's got a psycho ending. And my brother, we would listen to it at night in our bed. My brother had his boombox, and I hated that song because it had this really weird psycho ending, and it kind of ended like at Psycho the movie. Ray Manzarek pouncing on the keyboard, and then it gets all like weird, and then you hear Manzarek just kind of whisper. He goes, "I am the Lizard King. I can do anything." And you hear.
I remember that song now. Yeah.
It scared the shit out of me, man. That song always scared me. But as I got older, I started to think that they were pretty good. They had their own sound, and Manzarek was just unbelievable keyboard player.
For me, just too hippie-ish. I was never into that hippie music. So for me, it was just way too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For me. I mean, it's that's not to say that they're. I love LA Woman. I love that song. I think it's a great song.
Recorded in the bathroom.
Yeah, but all in all, taking it as a big. I mean, I get why you're saying it because it was definitely for a debut album, a great album, especially with the songs you have on it, and it really kind of really pushed the way the '60s went for the rest of the '60s. What year did it come out?
67. It was kind of a soundtrack. Summer of Love. It was, so it was kind of like a soundtrack, I guess you could say, of you always see it in like Vietnam movies. You ever watch Vietnam? You always have like the end. Yeah. The Doors are always in some sort of Vietnam movie.
That and Fortunate Son.
All the time.
They're flying
All
in
the time.
helicopters. Every movie, they're flying in helicopters. Your fortunate son. Come on.
They were my dad's favorite. CCR. My dad listened to CCR all the time. He loved them.
Like CCR.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I, you know, not like I wouldn't go out of my way to. I shouldn't say I wouldn't go. I like them. So if they're on, I'm like, oh, I'm tapping my foot and I'm listening, I'm singing. But I mean, it's not a band that I put on a
Right.
lot. I like John Fogerty when he went solo in the '80s.
Yeah.
Centerfield was the album. That was a good album. It was fun.
Did you ever hear that real quick? That lawsuit. Did you ever
With
hear
the pig. Vance
No.
can't dance.
No, the John Fogerty lawsuit. Did you ever hear that?
No.
John Fogerty was sued in the '80s by his record company, his old record company from CCR, and the lawsuit was he sounded too much like himself from the old days.
That's why I would say that Vance Can't Dance. He wrote that song because of that lawsuit, and it was about Vance can't dance, but
right.
He wrote that about that lawsuit.
And they threw it out. It was just a ridiculous, lawsuit because the guy is the guy. Like, how is he supposed to sound? He can't sound like anybody else. So,
and he wrote all the music for him.
He did.
Yeah. So I mean, it's naturally going to sound like him.
Yeah, I met their drummer in an airport.
Really?
Going out to LA, and you know why? I had happened to see a behind the music on CCR like literally like 2 days before, and I'm in the airport and I see this guy walk by, and I went up to a guy and said, "Is that the drummer for CCR?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he was talking to the other guy, the bass player, the bass player. And I said, "I thought they hated each other." He goes, "Shh, that's a secret." So they still make their money, or they used to anyway.
All right. So what are we up to? Number 3 now? You're number 3?
Yeah, my number 3.
Your number 1 was the Cars. Your number 5 was the Cars. Your number 4 was
the Doors.
The Doors.
Yeah.
Oh no, what's mine? Right?
Yeah, you got to go 4th.
Oh yeah, my 4th. No, I did Pearl Jam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did Pearl Jam. So how did we go? Wait, I must have jumped ahead of you. So I that's all right. So number 5. I'm going to recap. We're going to recap. Number 5 for you was the Cars.
Yes.
Number 5 for me was what was number 5 for me? Oh no, Pearl Jam was number 5 for me. That's it. Pearl Jam was number 5 for me. Number 4 for you was the Doors. Now we're on to me.
Okay.
I have the Cars listed in here. I'd probably list the Cars higher, so I'm just going to go with something off the top of my head that's not even in here. You already mentioned it. That would be Dire Straits.
Oh, yeah.
Their self-titled album. I think that for me, Sultans of Swing is one of the best songs in my life. And I have a playlist that I've already told my kids that these are songs that have to be played at my funeral.
Right.
And Sultans of Swing is one of them. When I was a kid, I moved to Jackson from Willingboro. I moved to Jackson. And at that time, Jackson had, it was so spread out. There was nothing. Today, Jackson's really built up. But back then, I was miles away from anybody. I was brand new. I had no friends. I would be, and music was my friend. I listened to a lot of music, any albums I could get. My parents were divorced. My mom would usually, if I went to see my mom, would, buy me my love by buying me an album. So I would always have music. I would skip music. And I would sit and listen to Sultans of Swing over and over to the point where I wasn't just singing the lyrics. I was singing the lead guitar. I was doing that. And I that song for me is, there's other great songs on the album, but because of that song, for me, that becomes one of the greatest debut albums in the world because of what it meant to me.
Right.
Because it really got me through a tough time when I was leaving all my friends behind, moving somewhere else, alone, not really wanting to be where I was at. I mean, it's honest. I didn't really want to be there. It turned out to be all right in the end, but for me, that album becomes, and I didn't even have it in my top 5, but since the Cars was already mentioned, it was like number 6 because there's some other albums that significantly have more of a reason to be on there, but personally, this is the reason. But Down to the Waterline, Six Blade Knife. I mean, they're all great songs on that album.
Guitar wise, it's a hard song to play. He's a finger picker, so he picked, which it's very difficult for me to do. And that is that is one hell of a song to play. I know the chords, I can strum them, And I have this memory of being, I was probably 15, 16, just picked up the guitar, and a kid down the street from a lot of kids in my neighborhood played. They were in garage bands, a couple different garage bands. And this kid, who was older than me, probably my sister's age, he knew it. And he was sitting on my step, my side step, and he played like the whole thing. And I was blown away.
Wow.
He was doing a solo at the end and stuff like that. It was incredible.
See now, and again, this is another one of those albums where I think the debut album's great, but I think their next record, Making Movies, is 100 times better. I don't know if
Right.
you know Making Movies.
Not really.
It's got Skate Away on it, and now I can't. Romeo and Juliet, and what's my favorite one? I can't even think of it now. Oh my God, it's Getting Crazy on the Waltzes, but it's the life that I choose. I can't think of the name of the song now. I hear the lyrics, but I can't think of the name of the song. But for me, that album is great. I love Espresso Love. I love Skate Away. I love Romeo and Juliet, and this other song that Tunnel of Love. That's it. Tunnel of Love. That's one of my favorite songs of all time too. Tunnel of Love. It's if you've never really listened to that album, do yourself a favor and listen to that album. It's great.
And yet their biggest song is the MTV thing.
For me,
I like the beginning. I always liked the beginning of that song. I thought it was cool, but I just all around, I think the song's is weird.
I think that album is like everybody loved the Brothers in Arms. Everybody loved that album. For me, nah.
Does that have So Far Away on it? I do.
Yeah,
like
it has So Far Away. It has They Do the Walk, You Do the Walk of Life. It's too poppy for me. I was disappointed. Have you ever heard the song Industrial Disease? It's a 14-minute song by them.
No.
It's about how Detroit became Detroit is really what the song is, but the guitar playing at the end of that is in line with Sultans of Swing. It's just incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's probably what's the number 4? Yeah, that's my number 4 because you took the Cars. You bitch.
I think we're going to overlay on maybe a few here.
I know. Well, I know we're definitely, and I won't take it off the list because the one of them is Monster. I don't know where you have it on the list, but I know what it is, and we know it's Monster.
I have it at 3. I know which one. You're Boston.
Yeah, I can't believe you have it at 3.
I do, only because the other two are just so significant in my life. But Boston, 1977. There you go, 77, 78. Incredible years. 3 songs they had in the top 40. More Than a Feeling was 5. Long Time was 22, and Peace of Mind came in at 38.
But every song now, on that album is played now. Every single song. Smoking, Something About You. I'm looking at the list now. Let Me Take You Home Tonight. Hitching a Ride. Oh my God. Monster
every single song on that record.
And
their second.
Good.
I'm sorry. I read that their second album. This is funny. Their second album only sold 6 million copies, and it was looked at as a disappointment because they had the biggest selling debut of all time. Like, how do you beat that? Come on.
What the second album that had Don't Look Back. What else was on that second album? I don't remember, but I remember it was good. It was a good album. But I don't remember. It's like not like I remember Boston, like the first album. Holy shit!
Yeah.
I mean, I could sit right now, put that album on, and just rock out like it was brand new. It's that good.
I have it on CD and in my car, and I listen to it, and it's just one of those ones you're going down 295, and you're going a little faster than you thought you would,
Yeah.
Because there's smokings on the radio, and you got that blasting.
Such an incredible album that it's a shame. I mean, because it was really heavily produced. They really couldn't capture that sound live exactly the way it was in the studio because he did a lot of. He was MIT, the guitarist with Tom Schultz,
and he did was a side project.
Yeah. So he did a lot of. But that Brad Delp's voice was just nobody. Like nobody had a voice. You could talk about Robert Plant's voice is iconic, and it's but Brad Delp's voice was amazing.
Jamie and I were in the car the other day, and More Than a Feeling came on, and I said, listen to this scream he does in the middle, right before the guitar solo.
Yeah.
And she just listened to it, and I said, now listen, and she's like, wow. And I go, no, wait, it goes higher, and then it went like just so high. I'm like, how did he do that?
He was incredible. I mean, it's a shame that he felt that he had to take his life, just what 10 years ago, I guess he killed himself.
I think it was about 13. It was right around the time I started my job because I remember it was a weird way too. You know how he did it?
I'm not sure.
He brought like I think he had like 2 or 3 charcoal grills, and he
Oh,
brought
I did hear that. Yeah.
in the bathroom, and he asphyxiated himself, and he left notes for the police like all over the house, like there's fumes here, whatever, it's dead, be careful and all that stuff. He didn't want anybody to get hurt, but he wanted out. And then I read an article where he blamed Schultz. He blamed Tom Schultz, and
I believe it. I know there was some animosity in there. I mean, there was problems. There was problems from after their second album came out. How many years did it take to get their next album out? It was
apparently it took like 8 years between records for them. It was always like 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, 1 and 2 came out relatively quick, right?
And then after that, it was every 8 years, I think.
Yeah, and I knew that there was animosity between the two of them, but I mean, to kill yourself because a bandmate's a dick, come on.
Right. No, I know.
So I think there had to be more going on in his life, and I'm not. Trust me, I'm not trivializing any reason that somebody feels the need to commit suicide. You know that about me.
Yeah.
And I'm not belittling him for that. I'm just saying the guy was a dick to him. I mean, there had to be something else going on.
Yeah, there had to be some other issues. The drummer died recently too. The drummer died. He died playing. He was on a cruise and he died playing. And he was The Rock's brother-in-law or father-in-law. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the drummer for Boston was The Rock's father-in-law.
Sid Hassan or yeah. He died. I know he was on one of those rock
80s cruise ships. Yeah, and he died playing. But yeah, I mean, he was The Rock.
He had that giant fro.
Yeah, the big.
I remember on the back of the album.
Yeah,
he had that giant fro going on.
Yes, he did.
Wow. Yeah, Boston was such a good. That's a great choice, and I can't even take that off my list. What did you have it at number 3?
I had it at 3. Yeah.
I'm going to put it at number 3 now because you took it. I'm trying to see. I have 2 albums that are good, but I'll leave it at number 3. We discussed it.
Okay.
I'm not going to bump it up to any higher than that because you've already bumped it up. But I think for me, as far as because it's the amount of hits on it, I think it would probably be number 1 on my list. But I'll leave it at 3. You're number 2.
We know personally that it's your.
I get why you put your the next 2 where you did because of the personal nature for you. I know what they are already.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So okay. So you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2, I got Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. 1987. I was 17 when they came out. I saw them at the Tower Theater, but nobody knew of them, and they were just absolutely. They were. Actually, I said they were like just a kick in the ass. Music was starting to become really silly at that point, the late 80s with the hair and stuff like that. And I like a lot of those bands, but it was getting really weird. And all of a sudden this band comes out and they were more like the Stones. They more like just kind of walked on stage with what they were wearing.
They fucking rocked.
They rocked. And they were more like a garage band. They were raw, they messed up and stuff like that. And that's what I loved about it. Yeah. That album. And then you just go down the track listing and you're like, oh my God, Welcome to Jungle, Paradise City, Sweet Child of Mine. Just off the top of my head, it's
what year did that come out? 88?
87.
80, wow, 87.
Actually, well, maybe I want to say it could have been 86, the tail end of 86, but it was 87 when it was,
I didn't realize it was that old. I thought maybe late, like 80, coming out of 88 into 89. I knew it was 80s, but I didn't realize it would be 86, 87.
Yeah, it was 87, and I saw them at the Tower Theater. And then a year later, I saw them open for Aerosmith at the Spectrum. And I'll never forget this. 2 things happened. One, the place was completely filled for them as an opening band, which I had never seen at that point. Because everyone, was taking a piss and buying, shirts and stuff like that. The place was packed for Guns N' Roses. And the other thing was, during the show, some guy comes up on stage, stole Axl's leather cowboy hat and jumped into the stands. And Axl jumped in right after him, head first, right over our heads because we were front row.
They were all badasses in that band back then. They were all drinkers and fighters and badasses. Yep. And
oh, it was incredible. So the show stops, and then Axl comes on. He says, "I'm not playing until I get my head back," which he was being a baby. And I had my problems with Axl Rose. I love him as a singer, but was, you know, a douche at times. But all of a sudden, you see this hat coming through the fans. You see, like on top of the crowd, you see his hat coming through, and it came up on stage, and he got his hat back, and he finished the show. And then you got Aerosmith to look forward to. It's just an incredible.
I hate Aerosmith.
Do you really? See, that's one of the bands we talked about. Like, what band is popular that you hate?
I can deal with like Sweet Emotion and Walk This Way. I'm okay with that, I guess. The fucking I Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Yeah,
Dude Looks Like a Lady. Oh, I want to kill myself every time those songs. I want to hang myself every time those songs. If I have to play them at the radio station, I turn it down in the studio. Well, I can't listen to it.
I liked Aerosmith up until '87, up until Permanent Vacation. They had Ragdoll and Dude Looks Like a Lady. Anything after that, though, I can't stand. You know, I don't like you know, the one that was for the movie, the Rocket movie. I
Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Yeah, Armageddon. Like, just they got really cheesy. But
and you know, the thing about them is that because of that music, because of what they became, I can't. It taints me going all the way back to when they first came out. I hate it that much. I can't stand Loving an Elevator and Dude Looks Like a Lady. I can't stand it.
Right. And I couldn't put them as a debut album because their debut album, Aerosmith, didn't really do that much. Funny story. So Aerosmith's album, their first debut album, came out on the same day for the same record company as a young Bruce Springsteen. And the record,
that young Bruce Springsteen is one of my honorable mentions. So don't mention it.
So I won't. But so the record company threw all the money on Bruce because they thought Bruce was going to be the next Dylan, the next giant thing. And Aerosmith was kind of like an afterthought. So they had to hit the road, and they built up their audience on the road. They hit everywhere in America, just like, you know, they hit anywhere they could. They had to build up their audience, whereas the record company just loved Bruce and threw all the money at him, you know.
Well, you know what? I'll mention it now. It's not in my top 5, but I'll mention it. Bruce Springsteen, Greetings from Asbury Park. It's not the greatest debut album in the world, but it really did what you just said. It kicked Bruce Springsteen into the next, because his next album was Born to Run, and he just exploded from there. Born to Run, The River, Born in the USA. There's probably a couple more I'm missing in there in between all those, but you're right. Because it's not a great album. I mean, what do you got in there? You got Blinded by the Light. You got, I think Rosalita's on that album.
I think Rosalita's on their record too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I only say it because you can't be listen, I'm not a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I hate his politics, I think
Rosalita's on Born to Run. I think, now that I'm thinking about it, Rosalita. I think.
Well, you know what? I'm going to look it up while we're talking about it. We may as well. We have all this this technology here.
Yeah.
But I was just going to say something. But I do like, I don't think I liked him, you know, coming out of the late 80s and on, because his politics got too much into his songs.
Right. I don't like him from the 90s on. I do like the 80s stuff. Well, no, I can't say that because I didn't like Tunnel of Love and shit like that. But I liked.
Really? Because that's probably one of my favorite Bruce Springsteen songs, Tunnel of Love.
Really?
I love that song.
I love. I will say this though, and I say this very rarely. Is there a perfect album, in my opinion, from beginning to end? And Born to Run, I think, is a perfect record. When I put that on, there's not a moment in that record where I'm like, this, like, I want to fast forward. Born to Run is just, and he agonized over that record.
Yeah, it's definitely a good record. I love, but I think I really, really love The River and everything that's on it.
That was the follow-up?
I believe it might have been. I'm looking at the track listing now for, here we go. All right, so Blinded by the Light, Growing Up, Mary Queen of Arkansas, Does the Bus Stop at 82nd Street, Lost in the Flood, The Angel for You, Spirit of the Night. That's it. That's the other one. And it's hard to be a saint. And it's hard to be a saint in the city. Yeah, so Rosalita must be off of
Born to
Run. Yeah. Do they have the father? Oh no, The Wild, the Innocent, the East Street Shuffle. That's probably where Rosalita's off of.
Okay.
That's the next album. Rosalita is off the second album, The Wild, the Innocent, the East Street Shuffle. Yeah, I forgot about it totally too. But now that I'm seeing it, oh yeah, of course. Then he hit Born to Run.
Well, it was
which
funny
is
because he admits it too. He was about to be dropped from the label after the second record. I read his book. His book was really good. And he was about to be dropped. The record company was just like, look, man, you're not selling. So he agonized over Born on the Run. He went over every single note of this record. It had to be great. And it was.
10th Avenue Freeze Out's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
And Jungle Land's a great song too. So yeah, no, that only because Greetings at Asbury Park kind of propelled him forward. I don't think it's a great album overall. It's good. I mean,
Right.
I think Manfred Mann's cover of Blinded by the Light's way better
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's the one everybody knows.
Right.
But it's the album that propelled him. So
I have a
got it.
documentary on him. Great documentary. It's The Making of Born on the Run. And there's one funny part there where he's listening to a playback of 10th Avenue Freeze Out. And out of nowhere, he turns around the engineer and he goes, to this day, I still don't know what a 10th Avenue Freeze Out is.
It's amazing.
He's made it up. He's like,
do you even know what a pop culture sanctuary is? I don't know what it is either, but that's the name of our fucking podcast.
Right. We're going to make some of it, right? I just thought that was funny. Like 10th Avenue, he just admitted, he's like, I don't even know what that is. He's like, it just, it fit the song.
I don't know where to go with number 2, which one of these. So I'm going to go, I think, because everybody's going to be surprised by the one, and I know what you'd be. So I'll go with The Police.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2 for me is the debut album of The Police. The albums are
78, right?
78? Absolutely, yeah. The first time I ever heard The Police, it's funny, I was in Jackson. I was in my room. I was listening to the radio, WPST. And at that time, PST had a thing called Battle of the Bands. And they would play 2 songs and people would call in and vote and see, which song won. I don't even remember the other song, but it beat The Police, Roxanne. It beat it. Beat Roxanne. And I have Roxanne all the way.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I ever heard The Police. I heard Roxanne. I was going, holy shit. I want to hear more of this band. And then just to get that album, and I probably wore out the grooves on that album. I listened to it so because I had the album. I didn't have a 8-track or a cassette. I had the album and I just listened to it over and over and over and over again. Such a phenomenal album. And when I got to see them in Philly at Citizens Bank Park, I mean, they played a lot of songs off of that. They played Born in the 50s and So Lonely. Sting, man, that guy sounded exactly like they were on the record. I'm like, you got to be. It's incredible how good they sound. Wow. And this was how many years later? I mean, this is when they played Citizens Bank. It was got to be the early 2000s, I guess. Maybe 2005.
That's another band that I missed live. I didn't get.
Yeah, I saw them late. I didn't see them in their heyday. But right. I was so glad I got to see them because that was their final tour.
Well, they broke up in '84. So I was 14 when they broke up, and Sting broke them up. I kind of see what he was talking about in a way, but he was saying that I read an interview with him. He said they were playing Madison Square Garden in '84, and he said that was it. That was the pinnacle of that band. They headlined Madison Square Garden. There was nowhere to go but down. So he was just like, I want to end it here. And the other 2 guys were pissed. They didn't talk to him for a long time. Andy Summers and Stuart Copeland, they were really mad at him. And there was a lot of friction in that band. You know what they fought about the most? That band? Album covers.
Really?
They were getting fist fights over album covers. They would literally fist fight each other over album covers. But just a weird, they had a weird mix, like I said, reggae, punk,
Yeah, ska. I mean, it was such a good mix. It was so refreshing to hear him because at that time, I mean, now you look back at it and it's not really cutting edge, but at the time it was sort of cutting edge. It was that new wave-ish, rock, the Cars, the Police,
sure,
bands like that were coming out, Talking Heads. For me, that was the alternative music of the time.
Right.
And I was into the alternative music of the time. Now, that's not to say I wasn't into the poppy crap, and I was into, but even now I think that's kind of new wave-ish too, like M-pop music and stuff like that. That's new wave-ish. But I was into Led Zeppelin. I was into Boston. I was into the mainstream rock and roll. But for me, I really started to get into, and I think the Police for me got me in that direction.
Yeah.
Really started getting into the new wave music and really enjoying the Talking Heads, the Police, and those kinds of bands. Really, for me, the Police set me on that path.
Yeah, the guy that I was telling you about who played the Dire Straits, his band played a lot of Police songs. They would play like "So Lonely," which is my favorite Police song of all time. I love that.
And I sing it. I can't sing high, but so lonely. I do it all the
Yeah,
time anyway.
I love that song. However, I do love their later records too. I loved their last record, Synchronicity. I thought that was just a great album. The title track was cool, and
Yeah, I have all their. I think I have all their CDs, most of them at least.
Every Breath You Take, highest selling single of all time.
Which is about stalking.
Yeah, and they
You know
played
what's
it.
funny? Now that you mention that, I just saw a clip on YouTube. You may have seen it too, where Sting is in the audience and Jose Feliciano is on stage singing.
Oh, it's
And
so painful to watch.
You can see Sting just cringe. He's like, "Oh my god, this is awful."
It's so horrible. I can't watch it anymore. I can't watch it.
You saw that?
I did. He butchered that song so bad. God bless him. He tried.
So bad.
I know.
And he's singing, "I'll be watching you." You're fucking blind.
Right. I don't think he rehearsed it one bit, and he tried
Awful.
with her. But
Awful.
I saw a stat. I think he still makes something like some ridiculous amount of money per year off that song. I forget what it is, but it's a huge amount.
Well, it's not my favorite Police song by any means. It's definitely not. But I mean, it's all right. I remember it. But you know what? To me, it's overplayed.
Yes.
It's overplayed. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't. It's like, oh my god, for God's sakes! All right, we get it. There's other Police songs out there. Play something else.
Right off that album, I thought "King of Pain" was a great song.
Great song. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
"Ring Around Your Finger." Oh, I love that song. "Ring Around Your Finger" was awesome.
Well, you know what? I mean, if you listen to any of their albums, they have great songs on. I mean, their albums are just, you know, Zenyatta Mandata. With Outlandish Steve Moore was the first one. I think Zenyatta Mandata was that the second. Did it have Canary in a Coal Mine on it? I think so.
I think
Which
so.
it's a stupid song, but I love it. Canary in a Coal Mine. I mean, I just love it. Yeah, so for me, that's number 2, Police, and number 1, I know shocked you when you found out what it was, and I think it'll shock the world.
I was shocked, but it's a great pick. It's an awesome pick. I was shocked though. I mean, and I think if anybody who knows me knows what my pick was, and my pick is Van Halen 1, and the reason is yes, Van Halen 1 was the album that got me to pick up the guitar, and I never looked back. And I still remember the night. I remember the night. It was my brother had those Maxell tapes lying on our bureau, and I picked one up. It was a rainy night, and it was 83. It was 1983, and I put it in, and I didn't know the order of their records. So 84 had just come out, 1984, and I didn't know that was their latest record. I didn't know. I put in Van Halen 1, first track. It's okay. Running with the Devil, not bad. You know, heavy. But then Eruption came on, the guitar solo, and I never heard anybody play like that. I didn't know what he was doing or whatever. I remember I sat up and I just rewound it, and I just kept rewinding it. And I was in guitar lessons the next week. That's how much of an impact that one album had. I was playing guitar the next week in guitar lessons. I've been messing around with it. My dad had an acoustic guitar that I found in the attic, so I was messing around, but I didn't know what I was doing. But that's what actually got me to say, all right, I want to play now.
What other songs are on that album? I mean, I love Van Halen, but I'm not that familiar with them that I could tell you.
You Really Got Me, the cover of "You Really Got Me," the Kinks. Ain't Talking About Love, Ice Cream Man,
which is one of my favorite all-time songs. Ice Cream Man, I love that song. I sing it out loud whenever I can.
Great guitar solo in that.
That's a great album. That is the first time I heard Van Halen. I was over my friend's house, Brian Figner, who lived down the street from me in Jackson, and never heard him before. But I think at that time, what year is that? 77, 78. Did correct me if I'm wrong. Was Neil Young's that live album, Live Rust, out in 78? Because I remember we were listening to that, and then he put Van Halen on, and I was like, holy crap. Now, maybe I heard Van Halen later than 78, but when did Live Rust come out? Just so I can...
Here's the thing. I wouldn't know. I'm not a big Neil Young.
No, I'm not either, but he was, and he was listening to it.
Yeah, I don't know when that album came out, but yeah.
I remember hearing that and going, wow, I dig this. But I wasn't like blown away. I didn't go down and get guitar lessons, but I really liked it. It was the same. I remember Desolation Angels by Bad Company was out that same year. So 78 is such a freaking good year for
We could do a show in 78 alone.
I think we should. That should be on our list because it was such. I remember the music that came out in 78. I'm almost positive, and it might be 79, but I think maybe Damn the Torpedoes was out, maybe 79. for Damn the
I
Torpedoes.
think you're right. I think that was 79.
Yeah,
The
but
list of
in that area, 78, 79. Oh my God, such good music.
incredible music. Yeah. You just brought up something else I think we could talk about too. The best trios, the best bands that are trios, because I'm just like the Police, Jimi Hendrix Experience, Rush, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's a lot of bands that were trios, and the Police, oh my God, man. Just
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. That would be a good one. But Van Halen is a great pick because even though I know they influence you, it's still a great pick because there's a lot of freaking songs that are still played on the radio, on classic rock to this day. There's
right.
not a lot of bands that could say that. There's a lot of bands that came out and had hits and they might have one song that's played. But when you have a bunch of songs from an album that are still being played to this day, you made a significant impact in
Right.
music.
Ironically enough, it's their lowest selling record in their catalog, believe it or not, which
Really?
shocked me. Shocked me. I couldn't believe that. I thought
What's number one? 1984?
I think 1984 is the highest. Yeah, 1984 was number two. The only thing
Great songs on it. 1984 is a great album too.
1984 is a great album. The only thing that kept it from going number one was Michael Jackson's Thriller, which Eddie Van Halen also played Beat It on. So he was on the number one and number two records of 1984.
How about that?
And he didn't get paid.
No?
No, he never got paid. He did it as a favor, and the band was pissed at him. And he was just like,
wow, yeah, they could have made a lot of money, man.
yeah,
They're making money to this day.
Yep. Took him 20 minutes. Quincy Jones asked him to do it. He said, "I'll come down." He did it.
Because he wrote he should have a co-writing on that. He wrote the lead on it. Nobody else did, right?
He did. And I don't know if you noticed too, the backing band for Thriller was Toto. The band
really?
Toto.
Yeah, well, Toto was a big studio band, so yeah, I can see that. Yeah, Toto was a very polished band. They're definitely studio.
Yes,
studio band all the way.
Wrote Human Nature. He actually wrote Human Nature. I saw an interview with Steve Lukather the other day. He's the guitar player for Toto. And you can tell all these years later, he's still kind of pissed off when people bring up Michael Jackson, but they don't bring up Toto as the band that, he's still got.
The players from Toto were on so many albums that you don't even know. There's a lot of like guitarists out there that are on. You don't even know, but they're on every hit record in the world. TJ Tyndall, Anita Wise's husband, who passed away. He was the Sound of Philadelphia. He's on some of the biggest records of the 70s.
Wow,
unbelievable how many records he was on. When you listen to it, like I could be wrong, and if Anita listens to this, correct me, Anita. I think it was Disco Inferno, the guitar in Disco Inferno. That's TJ.
Oh, the Tramps, really?
Yeah, that's TJ.
Love that song.
Yeah, so he's on so many hit records, and the same thing with Toto. Toto's everywhere.
A lot of people don't, mention the Philly soul sound from the 70s, but which kind of bothers me when I see documentaries and they talk about like Detroit, obviously, and Motown. Why doesn't somebody make a documentary about the souls? I
think there is. David Usakin from the Hooters, he put together a band called In the Pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Where they went back and they visited a lot of the songs that came out of Philly. TJ was part of that till before he passed away. But it was it's pretty incredible to hear how many great songs came out of Philly. I mean, so many great songs. You're like, really? I didn't know. Oh my God.
Yep, Teddy Pendergrass and Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes and Patti LaBelle and
Hall & Oates even.
Yeah, and
they were bluesy at the beginning. They were very bluesy.
Billy Powell, who sung one of my favorite songs of all time, Me and Mrs. Jones. I love that song.
Me and Mrs. Jones.
I was in the hospital getting a surgery when I was 5, and I was in there for a long time. And that song was a hit. And the nurses would listen to it at the nurses station, and I just loved it. And every time I hear it, like I think of that, like. That was a great song, but that was from Philly. He was from Philly, Billy Powell. He recently died a couple years ago. But nobody talks about the Philly soul sound. But
we will in our podcast.
Yes, we will. We'll talk about it because that was an idea I came up with, like the different cities and their scenes or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, so we were talking about Van Halen. There was something else I wanted to say that you brought up, but I forget the point that I was going to make. But,
oh man, sorry. What did I say? I was saying I don't know.
Yeah, you said something. It was. I was going to say something, but I went the other direction with the soul sound. But yeah, so that's my number one. Surprise, surprise.
Here's my number one. It's going to shock the world. Shock the world. Now, I'm just going to say this. I don't think it's number one overall on my list, but I changed my list up because of the way it flowed.
Right.
But I think it's as far as debut albums go, when you hear the hits that came off this album, it is "She's So Unusual" by Cyndi Lauper.
Great record.
It really is. It's a great record with and I got to look because Money Changes Everything hit.
Yep.
Girls Just Want to Have Fun, huge hit.
Huge hit, monster.
Time
After Time.
Time After Time. All Through the Night. Witness. I'll Kiss You, and Yeah Yeah. But the thing about because we were just talking Philly sound, the thing about She's Unusual is the Philly sound there. The Hooters are all over that.
All over it.
The Hooters are all over that. And Robert Hazard wrote "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." Robert Hazard out of Philadelphia. He wrote that song.
Yeah.
He recorded it originally, and then she changed the lyrics a bit, but she went and recorded it.
The Hooters sing on "Time After Time."
Yeah, I think it's mostly Eric that you hear.
I think it is Eric Bazillion doing the harmony.
What's Hyman's name?
Rob Hyman.
Rob Hyman. I think isn't it him that's singing? I don't know who's singing it.
I think it's Eric Bazillion, but
all right, it might be. Either way, you can hear him, and you can hear the Hooter in that song. The whatever that it's called, the Hooter, but I don't even know what it is. What is it? The harmonica, saxophone type thing.
Yeah, there is a technical name for it. I forget what it's called. I used to have one.
They call it a Hooter.
I had one because of them.
Really?
I mean, the Hooters, because the Hooters, man, they when they came out and they broke really big. Of course, everybody in Philly knew them. MMR played them all the time. But when they got really big, I think my mom for Christmas got me one. Got me one of those things, whatever.
See, the funny thing about the Hooters for me is, and sorry, Cyndi Lauper, we're getting off you, but the funny thing about the Hooters for me is I never heard them, and I lived in Jersey and stuff. I never heard them until I was in Germany.
Yeah,
and the album came out, and then I was like, "Holy shit, these guys are from Philly!" And oh my god! And so it brought me back home. So it quickly became one of my favorite albums.
I remember hearing them before the album came out because MMR had a block party weekend. And they had the Hooters playing live at a real block party, and they were and all of a sudden you started to hear this band, the Hooters, on MMR all the time, so you knew they were local. And then they came out with that record, and I think they won a Grammy for that album, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
I got to look into that. But yeah, they were.
I mean, the Hooters is probably another great debut album, although they probably had some LPs.
I think they did. Yeah, I think they did.
Probably had some LPs, but when you talk about an album released nationally, that was probably good. But Cyndi Lauper, when you think about it, and first of all, Cyndi Lauper has an incredible voice. I mean, she's an incredible singer. Now she was goofy. She was that goofy character kind of back then. She talks with that thick
Brooklyn.
Yeah. And I don't think that's. I think she exaggerated a lot back then.
Right.
But she has an incredible voice, and it's really displayed in a lot of those songs. When you listen to All Through the Night and her voice and All Through the Night, it brings tears to your eyes. It brings tears to your eyes.
Yep. I love that song. When I was a kid, teenager through the 80s, there were four acts that just defined the 80s, and they were Michael Jackson, Prince, and then Madonna and Cyndi Lauper. They were it. They were the Mount Rushmore of 80s music, to me. And you just couldn't get past. You couldn't get past like MTV. Remember the show Friday Night Videos? Do you remember that show?
No, I was in Germany for a lot of the '80s, so I didn't get to see a lot of MTV. I miss a lot of the '80s culturally, like in that aspect. But
Friday Night Videos was a show for kids that didn't have cable. I didn't have cable. I didn't have MTV. But Friday Night Videos was on NBC. It was on NBC. And it was on every Friday night at 11 o'clock, 11:30, I think. Because they didn't play Carson on that night, so they played Friday Night Videos. It was like an hour and a half show, and it was great. And you just couldn't get past that show without those four acts. And Cyndi Lauper was just like, again, I wonder how much money she made off that one record. Like, I always wonder that, because also you got to wonder who wrote the songs. Is she a co-writer? Like,
I don't know, and I'd have to go back and look, but I can't. I honestly, to be honest with you, I mean, I know she had a couple more hits, but nothing like her first album.
No,
like I love the song I Drive All Night. That's a great song by her.
Yeah.
But when you come out, when you think about it, you look at, I don't remember a lot of big hits coming out after that for Cyndi Lauper. Cyndi, if you're out there and you're listening, let us know, but I don't remember.
You remember True Colors? That was
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, True Color. I remember it was a Kodak commercial too.
yeah, that was a big hit. And yeah, I think her second album or follow up had a few more hits, and then she tapered off. She's still out there. She's
I
still.
would go see her in a heartbeat. I'd go see her in concert in a heartbeat anytime.
She has a huge LGBTQT following. Huge.
Yeah, that's who cares. I just think she has a great voice, and I mean, not that it's a bad thing she has that. I'm just saying,
Oh yeah,
she's a phenomenal singer who whose debut album I wanted to shock the world with,
right.
and I shocked the world with her debut album.
Yes, you did.
And honorable mention. I could. I don't remember. Um, Throwing Copper, if it was their debut album or not, but live out of Pennsylvania.
I remember them. Yeah.
I don't
I
know if
remember.
that was their debut album. What a
Yeah.
great band! I saw them 3 times in concert. That was an honorable mention for me. I really don't know if that was their debut album. I think it was.
Yeah.
It's a great album.
I got two that were, man, so close to my top five. Leonard Skinner, pronounced Leonard Skinner.
Great album.
Yeah, great album, great hits on that, and of course the Eagles. Just peaceful, easy feeling. Take it easy. Witchy woman.
What's the song? With the God, the Winslow, Arizona, and
Peaceful, easy feeling. Yeah, off that record. Yeah.
that I gotta be no. There's a girl, my lord, is 16. Take a look. Take it easy. That's it. Take it easy.
Yeah, take it easy.
Now, have you ever been to Winslow, Arizona?
I have not. I've been to Arizona, but I haven't been there.
So Winslow, Arizona, in the crossroads, they had this big Route 66. Am I gone? There we go. Sometimes it fades out. They had this big Route 66 in the road, and then they have a pickup truck parked on the side of the road. And then when you look at this glass, the front of a store, you see a girl in that pickup Ford. She's not really in the pickup Ford, but in the glass, she's looking at you, and you could stand on the corner and get your picture taken in Winslow, Arizona. That's how big. So that's me and Kevin, because Kevin Downey and we went across country. Our pictures were taken there, but I remember driving through the desert, and that's the song to listen to when you're driving through the desert with your windows down or your top down is Take It Easy, crank it up, and just sing it as you're driving through the desert, because that is a desert driving song.
Yeah, that was a good. So they were my two. They were my.
Now, you know what surprises me? That you don't have Stevie Ray Vaughan on your list.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, for Guitar Geeks, that his debut album is really big, but I don't think mainstream and even for me, I think his second album was more impactful on me than his first one. But yeah, I mean, Pride and Joy is off the first one, and my God, that's a great. I just thought of this today. He'll be dead 30 years in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
And my God, that shocked me. That was my the day the music died.
I'm not a big Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, but I get it for you because you're a big guitar player, so I get why it would be.
Yeah, he's a big guitar geek guy, and I'll never forget. He was on tour with Clapton. I remember my mom came in. I had just done an all-night bender down the shore, and I came home and I was sleeping off a hangover, just a wicked hangover. And my mom comes in the room and says they're saying on the radio or the TV that Eric Clapton may have died in a helicopter crash. And I jumped up. I said, if he died, he's going to be like a god. He's just, So we go out. I go out and I turn on the TV, and I'll never forget that they said Eric Clapton's fine. He's accounted for. Robert Cray's fine. They said the only one missing is Stevie Ray Vaughan. I was like, oh no! I turned on to my mom. I said, I think Stevie Ray's dead. And I went downstairs. I put on MMR, and Pierre Robert was already playing Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I knew it. Once they play on the radio,
Once they play on the radio, you're dead.
You're dead. Especially when they play a couple times, they could play a couple songs in a row. It's to this day, if I hear a few songs in a row from somebody, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they died.
Is it 2 for Tuesday? Is it 2 for Tuesday?
Yeah.
Remember MMR? I think MMR used to do. Maybe it was YSP did 2 for Tuesday.
2 for Tuesday. Yeah. Rock Block. They did rock blocks and stuff where they play 3, maybe even 4 songs or something like that.
Now, were you a YSP fan or an MMR fan?
I was both. MMR I kind of grew up with. I mean, because they started in '68, and they just the Morning Zoo and stuff like that, and then Stern came on YSP, and YSP was a great station for a while.
Such a good station.
They were, with the classic rock and stuff like that. So both channels were awesome. Like
Yeah.
you can flip back and forth. However, I will say this: YSP had a show called Metal Shop. It was on every Saturday night, I think at 11:30, whatever. And there's four metalheads like me and my buddies, and they would play Iron Maiden and Motley Crue and Metallica and all that stuff. And they would do live linkage from concerts and stuff like that. So I remember I wasn't allowed to go to a Motley Crue concert because I failed a class on my report card. And I remember all my buddies were down there, and I was listening to Metal Shop, and they were doing live feeds, whatever. And I was just like, I'm so pissed. I was like, I should be down there, you know. That was a great show, Metal Shop. It was really cool. It was a local show.
Back in late '90s, just before the millennial came about, I was working in a radio station down the shore called I can't 94.3 The Point. And on Sunday nights, I ran the Hairspray Cafe.
Oh, okay.
I played all hairband music, and it was like, I was hairband. I guess I liked them, but I wasn't like this crazy hairband fan.
Right.
And here I am playing hairband music for 2 hours on a Sunday night. I'm like,
yeah. That's how I knew Guns N' Roses was getting big, because when I was in high school, like the football players and and all the kids that were cool, whatever, they'd be like, hair bands, sissies and all that. But then like a year later, when the football players were getting into Guns N' Roses, I was like, wow, they're getting big.
yeah. Well, listen, we're at an hour and 10 minutes, and if people are going to be listening, we got to wrap this thing up. So what we're going to have to definitely wrap it up. But what I'll do is, and people know because this is going to be post-produced. We'll have a list of our top. I'll have a list of our top 10 albums and honorable mentions on there. Obviously, we agreed on Boston and the Cars.
Yeah.
So I'll have they'll be simultaneous next to each other. But hey, listen, when our next show, we'll do it next week, I guess. And we don't know our topic yet, but do we know our topic yet?
No, I'll run by. It'll be
a big surprise because this is the Pop Culture
Sanctuary.
What a great name!
Our first debut albums.
All right, man. I'll see you. Whoa, what happened there? Keep shutting up. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, I'll see you next week, man.
All right.
Good talk.